What is heredity? Heredity is the passing of traits from parents to offspring. Traits are characteristics that can be passed down from one generation to another. Human traits include hair color, eye color, skin color, and height. Are we the only organisms on Earth that have various traits? Cats have various traits. They could have the size of their ears, eye color, length of whiskers, coat color, ear shape, nose color, and so on. Now, looking again at the noses of the people we had before, you will see that there are different forms of the same trait because all of their noses look different. We call these alleles. Alleles are different forms of the same trait. Of these various alleles, one may have a dominant or a recessive trait. Each individual has 2 alleles for each gene. One of those alleles is given to the offspring by the male, and the other allele is given to the offspring by the female. This way, the new organism has 2 alleles for the trait. One allele came from mom, and the other allele came from dad. So what is a dominant and recessive trait? Well, a dominant trait is the stronger of the trait and is represented using a capital letter, such as capital B, capital A, capital Q, capital E. The recessive traits are weaker, represented using a lowercase letter. For example, lowercase b, lowercase a, lowercase q, and lowercase e. Traits come as pairs of alleles, one from the female, one from the male. For example, little b, big A, little a, big E. The word genotype sounds like the word genes, and genes code for a trait. Phenotype starts with PH, like physical appearance. Physical appearance is what an organism looks like. You cannot determine the genotype of an organism based on its phenotype. And remember that phenotype is based off of the genotype of an organism. So here we have an example of a trait. Okay, this trait is a dominant trait represented by a capital G. And the phenotype for this genotype is green. So if we have a parent that has 2 dominant green alleles, right, and we combine them, what is the phenotype of the parent? Good, green. And the genotype for that parent would be capital G, capital G. What if we have another parent that has this trait, which is the recessive trait, represented by a lowercase g? What is the phenotype for this trait, for this recessive trait? Very good, clear. So if this parent had a second allele that coded for this recessive trait, and we put them together, what is the genotype of this parent? little g, little g. What is the phenotype of this parent? Clear. Very good. So now, if these two parents decide they're going to want to have offspring, this parent can either give the offspring this capital G or this capital G. So I will choose this one. And this parent is going to give their offspring either this recessive allele or this recessive allele. So I'm going to choose this one. Okay, so what is the genotype of the offspring? Good, big G, little g. What is the phenotype of this offspring? Good, green. Because if there's a dominant trait present, you will not see the recessive trait. If there is a dominant trait present, it will mask the recessive trait. When completing word problems, you will be asked to come up with the genotypes for heterozygous organisms as well as homozygous organisms. Hetero meaning different. Heterozygous genes are hybrid, meaning that they have one capital and one lowercase letter, whereas homozygous, homo meaning same. That means that the two alleles are the same code for that trait. So, for example, little r, they are both lowercase. Little q, they are both lowercase. And to differentiate between when we have a little r and a little r, or a big R and a big R, we label them homozygous recessive, meaning that same recessive. So then we'd have two lowercase letters, whereas homozygous dominant means that the two alleles will be the same and they will both be dominant traits and therefore capital letters. These are also called purebred.